Pokemon Scarlet and Violet teach you, the player, a whole lot of things. It's set in a Pokemon school, after all. They don't teach you, however, the single most important thing that there is: taking this Pokemon and making it as strong as possible. However, there is one glaring hole in their curriculum: the esoteric terms and statistics that go into making our Pokemon the best it can be. You may have heard some of these terms, like breeding, EVs, IVs, egg moves, items, abilities, hidden abilities. These form the bedrock of what we call competitive Pokemon. Hey, that's cool. Competitive Pokemon. Competitive Pokemon. Ban Incineroar. Thousands, if not millions of people have been interested in competitive Pokemon, but because of all of these, they haven't gotten as far as even raising a single perfect Pokemon. It's a shame, really. If only there were like a school where they would teach you these things, or honestly, even just a professor. Someone who, I don't know, maybe had over a decade of experience and was really attractive and had a really well-kept beard. Welcome, students. I'm Professor Wolfey, and this is my teaching assistant, Fido. We're going to spend this video learning how to raise Fido. Fido? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. How's that for a Doc's pun? What's the deal with flying taxi food? By the end of this video, you'll know how to take your Pokemon from its first beautiful moments entering this world and turn it into a perfect being of destruction. Even little Fido here. As a Pokemon World Champion, I know everything there is to know about building a Pokemon from the ground up and using it to completely obliterate your opponent. Now, I've been doing this for 12 years, and thankfully, Scarlet and Violet are just like every other game, and so everything I've learned thus far is exactly as useful because everything is the exact— There's no more daycare? Ah, but I had so many breeding jokes! Okay. I think I get the gist. Basically, if you want a perfect Pokemon, can you just go out in the wild and catch one? Well, technically, yes, but it costs a whole lot of time and money and mints and bottle caps to make it perfect, and there's a simpler way. It's much easier to start straight from the source, from the moment your precious, beautiful Pokemon enters this world. Breeding. Breeding lets you control a huge amount of the variables that go into competitive Pokemon, including a lot of the critical things about it. There's a whole lot of factors that you can control with breeding, but it's probably easiest to start with the most simple one: stats. Stats are the building block of what makes a Pokemon strong competitively. Here's the formula for figuring out a Pokemon's stats. Oh my god, that's a lot. Ugh, get that out of here. That is, okay. All right, let's bring it back slowly. Let's kind of break this down a little bit. Why don't we just take a look at some of the smaller parts so it feels a little less mathy. As I'm sure you're all aware, not all Pokemon are created equally. This in large part has to do with their stats. Dodrio, for example, is geared towards being a really fast Pokemon. Machamp uses its physical attack to be really strong. Little Fido is set up to be a bulky physical attacker. Well, when it evolves, of course. These base stats are consistent across a species, so one Wolfey and another Wolfey would always have the same base stats. However, I, the superior Wolfey, am still capable of defeating this wild, inferior Wolfey in battle. Why did this happen? Well, it comes down to our birth. I was simply built different. Hopefully at this point you've completed the game and have access to the IV Judge feature. Using this, you can tell if your Pokemon is cringe or based. So what are IVs exactly? IV stands for individual value, and it's a number between 0, no good on the Judge feature, and 31, best, that determines how many extra stat points your Pokemon can have at level 100. For a long time, IVs were a hidden stat. Player couldn't view them, and they were used to make each Pokemon you caught feel unique. Nowadays though, we know what IVs are, and we can manipulate them to make our Pokemon as strong as possible. IVs are one of the main reasons why if you have two different Pokemon at the same level, in the same species fight, you'll have one that comes out on top, as seen in my duel of the Wolves. My IVs, for example, are probably pretty high in my HP, defense, special defense, and especially my speed. Can you do this? So we want our Fido to have a perfect IV in every single stat except for its special attack. Because Fido's attack is higher, we're only going to be using physical attacks. That's the one with the little kapow symbol as opposed to the swirly one meaning special. Anyway, because of its high physical attack, we don't need to worry about its special attack stat, like ever. That's 5 out of 6 IVs that have to be perfect. Can't be that hard to catch one, right? Out of 6 stats, we care about 5 of them. They each have a 1 in 32 chance of being perfect. and we really do need them to be, lest our prize pastry get a soggy bottom at the wrong moment. 32 raised to the 5th power is a 1 in 33,554,432 chance of being perfect. This is why I was so clearly superior to my inferior doppelganger. I was born to be perfect, and not just in Ivies, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that later. It is time to establish a lineage, a history that people will remember, a noble house of Fido. Sumus panis qui resurget. Now, this next part might take a while, so to help make it easier, I've designed a beautiful musical soundtrack to help implant the information directly into your brain. You want to breed the perfect Fido. Now, as I'm sure you know, you could breed your Fido with another Fido, but what if you don't have a Fido to breed your Fido with? Well, you could use a Ditto. Ditto can breed with every Pokemon, including your beloved Fido. Now, what if you don't have a Ditto and you don't have a Fido? Are you out of luck? No, there's actually lots of other Pokemon that you can breed your Fido with. For example, every Pokemon has 1 to 2 egg groups. Fido is no exception, and actually has 2, Field and Mineral. That means you can breed your Fido with all of these Pokemon. That's great. Now, the reason we want to breed in the first place is we want to save time and energy to get the perfect Ivies as fast as possible so we can have our perfect Fido. Oh, there's one more thing I should mention. If you don't have a Fido and you don't have a Ditto and whatever, you can also use Fido's evolution, Doxbun. Oh, I should mention that there is another way to change your Pokemon's Ivies later in life, but I'm expecting a child right now. I don't want to talk about this. Stop distracting me. Your egg has a 1 in 32 chance of having a perfect IV in every stat, which is the same odds as a random wild Pokemon. Ooh, not doing that. If only there was another way. The Destiny Knot, or something like it. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be red. Actually, editors? Hopefully that worked. Anyway, when holding a Destiny Knot, the parent Pokemon will pass down 5 of their 12 shared IVs to their new child. That 6th IV is still completely random, so you're gonna need a bit of luck to get what you want. Now, this is why you'll hear players brag about having a perfect IV Ditto. It's not the Ditto that they're after, it's the fact that they can use it to have a higher probability of breeding the perfect Pokemon. If you're looking for a Destiny Knot of your own, you can buy it from Mesagoza at Delibird Presents for a pretty cheap price. Now, thankfully, our Fido only needs 5 out of 6 perfect IVs, but you should still get very, very comfortable, because this can take a while. Basically, we're going to be successfully breeding Pokemon with better and better IVs and then pairing them up. As each child improves, so will the parent, until we have a Pokemon with perfect IVs. For this process, you do need the Destiny Knot, as we mentioned a second ago, but you're also going to need a different item, which I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that later. Finally, after much toil, you will have earned a perfect IV Fido and a House of its Kin, Game of Thrones style. Wow, perfect IVs, a perfect Pokemon. This is great. We are about 1/4 of the way through breeding. If IVs are a Pokemon's genetics, we still haven't talked about their more natural inclinations. Pokemon, like humans, have a personality, and that affects them, including during battle. But, of course, we can't control for a Pokemon's personality, right? Of course we can, through the magic of social engineering. Okay, Fido, tell me a little about your dreams. I see. How very modest of you. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that's the wrong answer. Guards! You've probably noticed that your Pokemon has a little summary that shows what type of personality it has. There's 25 of these, and each Pokemon you catch or hatch will have one assigned to them at random. The reason this is important is because these different personalities cause your stats to grow in different ways. They each cause one stat to grow faster and one to grow slower. So if your Fido has a timid nature, for example, its speed will grow faster while its attack will grow slower. Manipulating which nature your Fido has can influence its best stat even more than IVs and EVs, which I know we haven't talked about yet, but I'm not ready yet, so please bear with me. Usually, you want to emphasize what a Pokemon is already good at. Think of it this way. I am really good at eating bananas, but I'm not so good at chugging milk. Now, I could become the best banana eater in the world if I spent years training, but if I spent that time chugging milk, my tummy would probably still hurt, and I might even still be better at eating bananas. We want to bring out Fido's full potential, and we want to do that by emphasizing what it's already good at. Fido's special attack is not so good, and its attack is a little bit better, and we want it to do damage. So we're going to be using an Adamant Nature, which raises its attack stat at the cost of its special attack. Fido already has decent defenses, and it's not going to get that fast anyway, so we want to help it do damage. Earlier, I told you that your Pokemon's other parent would be holding a different item. The item in question is the Everstone, more commonly used to stop Pokemon from evolving. It's a rock. You can find it where rocks are found, or you can buy it from Delibird Presents, like many other useful items. Now, what the game doesn't tell you is that if a Pokemon is holding the Everstone in the daycare, it will always pass down its nature to its children. So not only do you have to find Pokemon with the right IVs, or at least good IVs, you also have to find one with the nature you want. Otherwise, it's completely random. Do yourself a favor and just go out and get a parent Pokemon with the right nature. It is much easier than getting the right IVs. There's one more thing we need to handle in breeding, and that is talking about the ability. Now, an ability can actually make or break a Pokemon, so you really want to make sure that you have the right one. What you need to know is that all Pokemon have at least one ability, some have two, and some can use a special third one called a hidden ability. It's pretty simple. All you need to know is that the mother has an 80% chance of passing down her ability and a 60% chance if she has the species' hidden ability. Otherwise, it's completely random, so you might get a Fido with the right nature and the right IVs, but the wrong ability. There actually is a way to change it, and I can show you how. All you have to do is keep watching this video all the way through. Hold on, where's the daycare? What's going on? Don't I need a daycare to breed? Ooh, an egg. In Scarlet and Violet, the miracle of life is tied directly to the miracle of food. More specifically, picnics. Now, this is a bit of a weird change, but I honestly think it's for the better. All you have to do is go to a picnic, bring out the Pokemon you want to breed, and wait a little bit. Eggs will start appearing in your picnic basket, and if that's full, they can also be transferred directly into your box. This is kind of gross, but I think it's way faster than waiting and talking to the daycare girl every time you want an egg. You can also boost the rate at which eggs are produced with sandwiches, specifically the ones with egg powers. Just make sure that the only Pokemon you have picnicking with you are the ones you want to produce eggs. If you have other Pokemon out, you might get the wrong eggs, so be wary of that. Pretty much anything that can produce an egg together will. Once you've produced like a bajillion eggs, it's time to cook them, hatch them. Eggs need a warm and caring environment in order to hatch, so make sure you have a Pokemon with the Flame Body, Magma Armor, or Steam Engine ability. This will cause the eggs to hatch faster while you're biking around. Within minutes, you'll have an army of Fido big enough to overrun all of Paldea. After a few dozen eggs, you'll finally have the perfect Fido. 5 perfect IVs and an Adamant Nature. But he is yet a babe, unsure of the ways of the world, and with no way of comprehending the enormous journey he has yet to go on. Let's get ripped. Wrong EV. EV stands for effort value, and they're what Fido and I were working on that entire time that we were training. Whereas IVs are kind of like your Pokemon's genetics, EVs are the skills that they acquire through training. Think of it like the muscle you build for going to the gym. Whenever one of your Pokemon knocks out an opposing Pokemon, they'll be awarded some EVs. At level 50, the first 4 EVs in the stat and every 8 EVs after gives you 1 more point than you would have had otherwise. Knowing this, we can manipulate our Pokemon to have the best possible stats. We know which Pokemon give what EVs and how many EVs they'll give us. Remember, we're mainly looking to train our attack stats, so let's look for a Pokemon that gives attack EVs, like Toxicroak, who gives 2 attack EVs when you knock it out. Now, forget about that for a second. Come over here with me. This is where things get SSX tricky. We know that a Pokemon can have 252 EVs in a given stat, but it has 510 EVs total that it can have. So we're gonna have to divide it up. Ugh, math, I know. Just kidding, grow up. Remember when you were in math class and you're always complaining like, oh, this is so lame, when am I gonna use this in real life? Now, this is your life now. So we've established we wanna put 252 EVs into attack. Knocking out 1 Toxicroak gives us 2 EVs, so we're gonna have to knock out 126 Toxicroak. Wait, what? There are easier ways to do this, much easier. This is just one method, it's the oldest method, and you need to know about it because it plays a role later on in an easier method. I'm not actually gonna make you knock out 126 Toxicroak. You could though. I'm not gonna stop you. Breaking news! A local child has been seen systematically hunting dozens of toxicroaks. Ecological experts say the child's efforts are likely to lead to an overpopulation of toxicroak's natural prey, worms. No, not Pokemon worms, just worms. The lasting effects on the region's ecosystem are still too soon to tell, but scientists say, and I quote, "We should all get used to living in Wormtown." That leaves us with 258 EVs left to invest. Earlier, we were concerned about our attack. It's why we went with Inanimate Nature, it's why we put all those EVs in, but now it's kind of up to you. One route you could do is put 252 EVs into your HP, with the remaining 6 going into one of your defenses. You could also do something that's a little bit less basic and put, 100 EVs in your HP, maybe 52 in your speed, etc. This is really all down to player choice. You could even do something unconventional like putting 252 EVs into your speed stat. I wouldn't recommend it, I don't think it's very good, but you could do it. It's your choice. Basically at this point, it just comes down to team composition, player choice, and preference. Here's a strange quirk with EV training. Because maxing out 2 stats still leaves you with 6 EVs left over, you get 1 extra point in any stat of your choice. I know that Fido is weak to steel, and steel moves are pretty physical, so I think I'm going to put this extra point in defense. You might laugh and think that, 1 point can't matter that much, but think about all the times your Pokemon has lived on 1 HP. It can actually make a big difference, especially in a high-stakes competitive match, so don't take it lightly. You're probably thinking, wait, were you serious back there? Am I actually gonna have to knock out 126 Toxicroak just to EV train this Pokemon? Nope. You saw Fido getting shredded, right? Well, like any good gym bro, he is on good supplements. These are not supplements. These are actually the gummies that help me sleep, but I don't go to the gym, so I have no use for supplements. Anyway, you can buy these vitamins in the game, and although they're a bit pricey, they're very useful. Each vitamin gives you 10 EVs in the desired stats, so 25 protein gives you 250 attack EVs. If you're short on cash, you can also use the feathers that are found around the game and are free because they're on the ground, but each feather only gives you 1 EV, so it can take a while to fully EV train a Pokemon like this. Plus, I don't imagine that feathers are a very good diet if you're trying to get swole. What those feathers are better for is the leftovers. 250 EVs leaves you with just 2 left over. Now, of course, if you want to get these 2 extra EVs, you can use 2 feathers. You can also just knock out wild Pokemon. Feathers are easier, but there's a limit to how many you can get of them. You only get them in Terra Raid battles, and you can find them on the lake as well, but that's only once per day, so you're not gonna have infinite. 25 vitamins will cost you $10,000. Wait, that's the price for 1 vitamin. Oh, 25 vitamins will cost you $250,000. Might be time to start selling my bathwater. So whatever you do, try to spend the least amount of money possible during your playthrough, and also pick up all the items lying around in Paldea and sell the ones you don't want. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting those Toxicroak until the cows come home. There are also items specifically designed to increase your EV yield after each battle. These are the power items, and in Paldea, you can get them before you even step foot in your first class. No matter what anyone tells you, don't use the Macho Brace. It doubles the EVs you get, but the power items just straight up give you 8 more, which is a way better deal. This makes grinding to KO a bunch of Pokemon to get EVs way less time consuming, but it's still my personal least favorite method. Let's say you want to give your Fido a new EV spread, or more realistically, maybe you just messed up when EV training and you realize you have 250 EVs in the wrong stat. That means it's time to go foraging. Wait a second, there's no berries here. Wait, this tree sucks! There's no berries! Down here! As ever in Scarlet and Violet, our greatest treasures can be found on the ground, including these berries, which each remove 10 EVs from a specific stat. Now, this is very useful, but there's no way to grow them in Paldea, so if you want a lot of them, you better get to scrounging. What's this? It's just another EV. Right now, this is the only way to reset your EVs, but I'm hopeful that future DLC will make the process easier, just like Sword and Shield did with Lady Clear. The other parts of Fido's young life will be fairly simple. You will either train him or stuff him full of candy, to level up, gaining experience and moves. You will hold strange CDs to his head, proving the old saying wrong. You can't teach an old dog new— Oh, I forgot about the old tricks. Egg moves. As you may know, your Pokemon learns moves through leveling up or by TM. The game, yet again, fails to mention that some Pokemon can only learn some moves through picnicking. Fortunately, it's pretty simple. Let's say you want Fido to learn Yawn. It will only learn it in picnics. There's 2 ways to go about it. The first is back at the birth of your Pokemon, you have to make sure one of its parents is a Pokemon that already knows Yawn. When your baby Fido hatches, it will have Yawn in its move pool. But let's say you're like me and forgot about egg moves till you're out of the egg. Instead, make sure your Fido has an open move slot, give them the Mirror Herb item, and find another Pokemon that knows the egg move. Have them pick it together and voila, Yawn is there. The egg. It moved. My lawyers have told me that I have to stop talking about breeding, so let's move on. Our Fido is perfect. He's a model. He's a star. We spent so much time on him, and he's just perfect. Perfect IVs, perfect EVs, the perfect ability, the perfect nature. He's perfect. He's perfect. He's perfect. Why are we not going to the next scene? He is perfect, right? Let's say you want to adjust your Fido a bit. Maybe the EVs are off, or I don't know, you want a different nature, or you want to use the hidden ability, Klutz. I don't know why you would want to use Klutz, it's not very good, but hey, it's your choice, you do you. Oh. Or more likely, let's say you have a beloved elderly citizen, a Breloom from your copy of Sapphire. Before you knew how to train it, so imperfect, so ripe for improvement. We can fix him. We can make him stronger, faster, better. First, let's tackle something that will be relevant for any Pokemon you train. Changing its Terra type. This Wolf has a normal Terra type. And it's okay for the ghost immunity, but it's not great in terms of adding attack prowess or key resistances. Let's say we want Wolf to be Terra Fire, or Terra Grass, or Terrifying. Nope. Let's settle on Terra Steel. To change Wolf's Terra type, we'll head to Medali City loaded with Terra shards of the type we want. You can find these, say it with me, on the ground. Specifically, you can find one of each type near the story events associated with the relevant type. Okay, one down. Time to change my type. 50 shards? They boomed me. Okay, well, if you want to stop scrounging about in the ground for a while like a little rat, you can also find these in Terra raids. Just know you don't get that many from raids, so be prepared to do a lot of grinding. At least the reward at the end is worth it though. You get this really cool nifty new hat until you want to change it again. Next, we want to patch up those IVs. Finally, all those years of saving while you're cycling are finally coming in handy. You want to find this guy in Montenevera who's standing next to an Aboma Snow. For one bottle cap, he will hyper train one of your Pokemon in one of their stats, setting the IV to 31. If you have the rarer golden bottle cap, he'll set all of your Pokemon's IVs to 31. There is a small caveat, but it's not that big a deal. If you try to use a Pokemon that has been hyper trained as a parent while breeding, they won't pass down that 31 stat. Just like me. Sometimes, when I sit in bed, late at night, I think about my future progeny, and I fear that I will not pass on the skills which I have honed, my world champ difference, my banana-eating prowess, my enormous, throbbing brain. Between you and me, I actually didn't use hyper training all that much in past games, pretty much only on legendary Pokemon. The reason being was, you used to have to get a Pokemon to level 100 in order to even use it, so it was just not a good investment of your time, and you were better off just breeding a better Pokemon, like in almost all cases. Scarlet and Violet, though, changed that, which is great. Now you only have to be level 50 to use hyper training. So your Fido can use hyper training at level 50, at which point it would normally be a Darkspun, but I guess you're keeping it a Fido, and it has the ability Klutz, which this whole thing is really weird, but hey, it's none of my business. The great thing is that bottle caps are also much more accessible. You can buy them from Delibird Presents for only $20,000 Poke, which is actually how much I paid for these. Speaking of klutzy Fido, remember I said earlier that you shouldn't sweat it too much if your newborn babe had the wrong ability? That's because there are 2 items that let you change it. It's time for Bionic Fido. Not really, that's just what I think of. The ability patch and ability capsule items let you change your Pokemon's type. Haha, just kidding, I'm so funny. The ability patch will change your Pokemon's ability to its hidden ability, which is often the best one, especially for things like starter Pokemon. The only problem is, getting an ability patch can take quite a bit of work. Hey, you got the stuff?
I need my payment.
Oh. I can't believe you, Fido. It's like your entire personality has changed. Oh. If you're really just not vibing with your Pokemon's nature, don't worry. You can feed it one of the 25 different types of mint you can find lying on the ground around Paldea. If this is a little bit too much like feeding your Pokemon feathers that you find lying on the ground, you can also find these mints in shops. Too bad you can't find this vintage bed in shops. You will have to go scrounging, however, for those EV resetting berries. And since any Pokemon you transfer over will likely have a random hodgepodge of EVs, these stat resetting berries are essential in making them competitively viable. So you don't have to start from scratch. All you need is a bunch of these specific berries, gather a bunch of trash off the ground, shell out for some weird electronics, and find someone who will sell you raw vitamins. Easy. Training a Pokemon in this way will cost you hundreds of thousands in Pokédollars and a whole lot of time. You'll only be able to do it a couple of times before you either run out of money or lose your sanity. Which is why I taught you how to grind for EVs and how to breed for perfect Pokemon. Remember, all that glitters is not gold. Only shooting stars break. Hold on a second, this Pokemon glitters and is gold. What's the deal with flying taxi food? And that's everything you need to know to raise a perfect Pokemon. If you learned something or you found this entertaining, I hope you'll consider subscribing. Don't ask me to do this again. I hate wearing ties. I will see you in 3 years.